Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any agenda for today.
That shocks me.
No, it's much like previous episodes.
Fair
I
enough.
thought this was a fully professional thing. I got a proper invite on the email and everything.
Yeah, it's fake it till you make it.
Story of my life.
Usually we just have Horse and he's like got 40 minutes or something to talk because he's fucking catching a train or something.
Nice. Very nice. Front to back. Leader's garment. Quite happy.
It's alright, isn't it? Looks pretty good in that bad boy.
Excellent, I think the word you're looking for is... Look at that thing. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Beautiful.
Now, only if you're ready for this.
All right, welcome back to the OTB podcast. We're back after we've had a little bit of a break last week, mostly because I forgot to take a microphone away with me while I was out of town. So we had a forced break, which was fine. I don't think we even really communicated the fact that we weren't doing one. So for all you loyal listeners, sorry you missed a week, but we're back here. We've got Leogang on this week, and we've just had an Elite in the opening round of the EWS there. So there's a wee bit going on, but we've got a special guest today. Founding member of Team Stealth, drove the Kiwi bus around the country. He was the 2005 National Series commentator. He was a selector for Mountain Bike New Zealand in 2006, owner of Quiet Chaos Clothing, will shave his head after 2 beers, and he's also a current drug dealer, although they are legal ones. Lester Perry, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, KB. What an introduction. What an introduction. You actually missed my highlights. You actually missed my highlights there. There was 8th in New Zealand at the Nationals one year.
Well, I said to Red Dog, I was like, I'm pretty sure
he
was a hardtail national champ or something. I'm sure of it. Was there some sort of hardtail title in there?
Nah, I don't know. Nah, I don't think they had a hardtail national champ. I can't remember. It's that long ago. No, but bustled around on the hardtail for a bit for sure.
I definitely remember some hardtail racing.
Yeah,
I thought there might have been a win at Castle Rock or something, like a BS win.
Yeah, no, that was a runner-up to JK at the Four Cross Nationals, actually.
Yeah.
That'll be my biggest result. That's my claim to fame.
Where was that?
Castle Rock.
At Castle Rock.
Was that at Castle Rock?
Yeah. Funnily enough, that place is like only 20 minutes away from where I now live, and it's just back to farmland. It's pretty disappointing.
Man, I couldn't have told you where that was. I remember it, but I never went there.
It was epic back in the day.
It was pretty impressive. I remember like the dirt jump set, there was just like a set of tabletops that seemed like they got bigger kind of as they went across from memory. Paul Langland's just doing huge Supermans on his specialised demo.
Yeah,
fully. Paul Needham doing 360s.
Yeah, that was the days. It was interesting actually looking back at old photos from then, like Four Cross was cranking. It was such a thing. You know, like that was in the heyday of Dirt Mag and all the rest of it. And I guess we were taking cues out of that, but it was sick. Like Win, and particularly Win, I'm pretty sure Eddie came to a few, but then there was just a ton of other dudes Bevan Adlam and JK and
Bevan was fast then.
Yeah, heaps of dudes.
I looked up because I was like, surely he's had a result at Castle Rock at some point. I looked it up this afternoon and I stumbled across results from like 02 for something, an event they had there. And it was like, JK, I think Guido Shug was there.
Yeah.
I remember him coming out.
It was stacked.
Yeah.
And it was in Dirt Mag. Do you remember when the few guys from Dirt Mag came out in like 03 or 04 maybe? And there was like a big feature on New Zealand and they had like quite a few photos from Castle Rock and stuff in it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that was the glory days.
National round. Yeah, big time.
Definitely.
Four Cross these days, we discussed it last podcast. It still exists. Who knew?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like I mean, what did I find the other day? XC Eliminator is still a thing. In fact, I just had a World Cup round. I don't know if you saw the photos, but up on my Facebook feed, and they got a climbing wall, like a portable climbing wall, with all the handholds on it and laid it on the ground, and that was like the rock garden that they rode through.
Oh, for fuck's sake. They're
It's
really
amazing.
clutching at these, trying to keep it alive now, aren't they?
Oh, mate. Someone's got to be world champ, though. Like,
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it.
someone's got to do it.
Did it
Everyone's
Rooney
got
this
a
is
race?
like-
medal.
I caught you two
race.
talking. I caught you two talking gravel when we first got on here, and so my theory is that gravel is just a resurgence of what mountain biking was in the 80s. So just riding bikes with no suspension on gravel roads, and now they're bringing out bullshit like suspension forks for gravel bikes and fucking flexi stems, and it's just mountain biking starting all over again. That's all it is.
I heard a conspiracy theory today. I was listening to a podcast while I was working, as I do, and it was a roadie podcast, but they were talking about how gravel biking is just big mountain biking trying to get more money, like the equivalent of big pharma, but it's like big mountain biking. And they're just like, look, everything's just coming over from there. You know, everyone's running like an Eagle group set or whatever on their gravel bike, and you know, tire liners and cush cores and whatever. It's all just coming across from mountain biking. So it's just big mountain biking looking for more money.
Big mountain biking. I love it. I love that term. That's awesome.
Yeah. But it's pretty
Big pharma.
true. Crikey, you see where they're going. I've rolled a line. I'm like, confession, I just bought a new gravel bike. And I was like, I think it takes up to like maybe like a 45 mil tire or something like that. And I was
Can
like,
you put like a 2.3 million in there?
Probably squeeze it in on 650 Bs. But I was like, if you need a bigger tire, then you go and ride a mountain bike. Like, I don't care what people think. Like, road is still closer to gravel than mountain biking is to gravel, you know? So,
Nah, like I've always, I was for a long time, well, for how long gravel's been around, for a few months, I've been like, what is this bullshit? But then when we were in Germany the other week and we'd ride these bike paths, and then all of a sudden it'd spit you off into these like immaculate forests that just like were actually, you know, they're all gravel, but they were mint. Like I was actually like, I can see why this could actually be quite fun. But around here, you'd just be riding, in Nelson, you're just riding steep fucking forestry roads, so you might as well go mountain biking.
yeah, exactly. Well, you guys have got enough single track there to make it worthwhile too. I feel like we're on a slippery slope to turning this into a gravel podcast. But I mean, hey, New Zealand is built for it. Like, how's all the rail trails and river paths and all the cycle trail network stuff? I mean, it's legit.
You just got to
Red
avoid
Dog
the
knows.
boomers on e-bikes.
Yeah, fully. Yeah. Don't get me started.
fucking e-bikes.
Should we crack into EWS-e then?
Let's talk about mountain biking again.
EWS-e, I don't even understand the format of EWS-e. So are they doing multiple laps on the same stages, or what? Do either of you two, have you looked into this?
Nah.
Nah.
But it looks, I think the way I understand it is you have a central point and then you have loops that go off from that point, almost like a clover,
okay.
if you like, something like that.
Right.
But
So you're not doing the same one.
no, I think they might repeat one, maybe like the pro stagey kind of thing. Not 100% sure. Actually, to be fair, I don't really know, but I do know that they go back to the pits more so they can change batteries or whatever they need to do. It is weird though.
Do they get
It looks hard.
batteries, eh?
Spoiler alert, it looks hard.
Yeah, heck yeah. Yeah.
So I have two problems with it. First problem.
Go on.
First problem, they have that stupid power stage, which means guys have to race in like their full enduro kit with the full face and no goggles. And I have a real problem with the no goggles aspect. Just from aesthetics, you know, it doesn't look right. And my second issue is the fact that it's slowly making our legends of the sport look stupid because they're getting beaten by guys you've never heard of before. So, like, Nico is in sixth, and this guy Edgar is in first with Andre. Like, no, I don't know who these guys are. They could be fantastic. But Nico's a legend. He should win.
I mean, he's a pinner on that bike. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
But it is weird that, like, so do they have to wear their full face helmet? Is that kind of the deal?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Because I assume the power stage is just midway through the day somewhere, you know, sort of thing. Like all of a sudden you have this climb that you've got to hit.
Yeah.
But apparently the liaisons are super tight. That's part of it too. Like there's no fucking around. Like pretty much you get off your stage and you just pedal to the next one. This dude Sam Greenslade from Christchurch that I know that's over there, and he raced the first round, and he said it was no joke. Like, he was only just making it, and he ended up getting timed out because he had, I think he snapped a chain and like tore some teeth off his front chainring or something, and missed a stage or something like that. But yeah, it sounded like he said they were pretty much straight off the stage, pedaling, getting there with like a minute to spare kind of thing. Sounds like the infamous Mammoth Enduro of 2020. That was, you pretty much rolled straight into the start of each stage because everything was so tight.
That's kind of how I reckon it should be, though. Maybe not that tight, but a little bit more open than that. Yeah. I don't know. I got some opinions on the way Enduro's going now too, but I just think it's changing. It's changing.
So I've got this theory, this format. So basically, like, you take the Enduro, you cut it down to one stage, you have a whole day of practice, and then you have one timed run down that stage. Do you reckon it'll catch on? Just to see who's the best.
The issue with that, and the thing that I found when we went and did that race in Queenstown, is that you sit around a shitload.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, this is why we all started racing Enduro. Because like I did 3 runs in a day.
You just sit around a shitload, but just right on different parts of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what killed the appeal for me, is just sitting around. And then when you're my age and you're just sitting around listening to a bunch of kids.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Lester. I did the first round of the Gravity Canterbury series at the end of last year, like the summer series. And I'm sitting in the back of the van going up the hill for my first run, questioning what I'm doing with my life, just listening to the chat that's going on. And I was like, I am the oldest person apart from the driver in this van by double. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? It really made me question my decisions to race downhill. It was pretty worrying.
No, I know where you're coming from. But that's what was, I mean, I was going to say that's what was cool about Enduro. That is what's cool about Enduro, but Enduro is slanting more and more towards like a multi-stage downhill race.
It has gone that way.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think I guess they'll get some big mountain days again, but like this weekend, I think they had 1,700 meters vert or something like that climbing in the liaisons, and that's nothing. And it was like, how many minutes racing was it? I did look.
17 and a half. Yeah. Richie was 17:35.
Yeah, so I know that's nowhere
short,
near
really.
enough. No, it should be twice that. Even though it's a small hill, they should be able to it should be like, they should be saying it's minimum 25 minutes of stages or something like that. I don't know.
They did have to cut out stage 2 though, so that drops probably. I don't know how long stage 2 was, but the average, they all look to be 3 to 4 minutes long. So I guess it should have been more in like the low 20s, which would have made a bit more sense.
It would have been just in the low 20s, I think. Yeah.
So, I mean, do you remember those old 2Ws? And that's a pretty different kettle of fish, but one of them it was 45 minutes racing or it might have been 42 was the win time. That's a completely, like, that's how epic it used to be.
Yeah.
And I think the EWS was like that. And I'm sure maybe there's going to be some rounds this year where it will be, but I don't know. This weekend just sort of felt a bit short and sharp to me. It felt like a multi-stage downhill race more than anything from the limited coverage that it got.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
it's too hard to pay attention to all of it.
I reckon they went through a time a few years ago and maybe like Crankzilla and Whistler kicked it off, and then they had another spell where like things were really long and gnarly, and then I think the riders were like, this is too far, this is too much, and they maybe overcorrected to the shorter side of things. So now you've got like these short, I agree, like a lot of them are really short. I remember looking last year and I was like, that's not a very good day.
It used to be a bit more wide open, right? And it used to kind of be the event organizer's discretion as to how they ran the race. But now there's all these guidelines and rules and how much climbing they're allowed to put in and, like time limits and all this sort of shit. So there's way more that they have to follow now. That's where I know when they were like doing the one here for Nelson, that's why they were having to like, not that they've had it, but they're like, right, we're going to have to put X amount of shuttles in because we can't have people actually climbing this much because otherwise it goes beyond the guidelines of what, the organisation put on it.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of that goes in there too now. Like they can't climb over a certain amount of elevation and all this sort of shit. So it's all kind of been whitewashed a little bit. And
I do wonder if a lot of it is, to aid in covering it from the media side, which you've got to have. But
it's still a shit event to cover from media, it's great. It's great racing, but it's not great watching.
No, that's right. So do you just go, okay, this is not a made-for-media event. We're just going to have some coverage come out 2 days later, which is almost kind of what they did this time. But and then you just go, right, we're just going to make the most kick-ass, and it's a big day. Like, I don't know, the appeal definitely has shifted away for me now that it's not those epic days. Like, to me, you should be getting to your stage 5 minutes beforehand, and you're like humped after an hour climb. And I mean, they will have those, I'm sure, but it just doesn't feel like it's as epic as it used to be.
I think of just turning.
It's easy. It's easy for me to say when I haven't done any racing in Europe. Well, not really, but
that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
armchair analytics.
Looking at last year's races, they didn't have a total race time over 30 minutes the entire year. So every race time was under 30 minutes.
Yeah, which is crazy.
They're all
and they're probably mostly 6 stages, are they?
I'm not sure. I haven't clicked into it, but it's like 27, 28, 23, 26, 24, 23, 21. They're all pretty. Yeah, they're pretty short.
That is pretty short. Yeah.
It's pretty incredible how tight the times still stay, though. Like the race in the weekend, it was like 5 seconds between Richie and Jesse Malamud over, 17 and a half minutes. It's pretty tight.
Yeah. And that it'd be interesting to know, like, if that was longer, and if it was, let's say that they did stage 2, would the difference be the same? I'd hazard a guess that it would be. And to be fair, whether it's an epic, massive day or if it's a short, sharp day like they had, the same guys are going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Those two guys, if you throw Jack Moyer in there, those two are pretty much the top, kind of straight off the top of your head. They're like the top 3 guys from last season, pretty much. So it's not a surprise. But Jack's coming off injury, so he's back a bit. But even I was thinking the first year we had the Mammoth Enduro here in Nelson, and it was 2 days, 5 stages each day, and it was like 45 minutes race time. Yeah, and it came down to under 5 seconds between me and Justin for the win. That was where it ended up. It was that was pretty cool. That was real tight. That was one of the best ones I've done.
Yeah. See, I think to me, that's the way an EWS should be. It should be that level of day, mega.
Big. I like a big single day for the EWS. I think it's I always thought Whistler was, even though personally I hated it because it was horrifically hard. I thought that was like the pinnacle of enduro racing, like maximum descending, still a lot of climbing, long stages. It's sort of, I don't know. They'll probably get back to that when they go there, but yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like this year. Actually, speaking of enduro, we've got a couple of questions. Rob Moore wants to know who was your biggest surprise at round 1 from a results perspective. So who jumped out of you? I mean, the obvious one straight away is Ennis Graham. I mean, no one, he's kind of a niche reference. He's not an EWS regular in 3rd place.
Did he ride for MS Mondraker at one point? He did, eh?
Yeah. He was a pretty handy downhill racer. And then last year he was there shooting photos in the media. And then this year he's there getting 3rd.
I listened this afternoon to the Downtime podcast with Katie interviewing him, Katie Winton.
I'm going to have to beep that reference out.
Yeah, you can beat that out, but that's right. We're all friends at the end of the day. It's a really interesting podcast. You guys should check it out sometime. I think I'm one
No,
of
I'm
the
not
3 or 4
familiar.
people who listen to it.
The
Anyway,
original
it was pretty interesting, and he just came in really unassuming. He obviously trained pretty hard and had a strength coach and whatever, but he was working right up to the event as a mountain bike coach. And yeah, I mean, like he said was on the Win TV or something, he was talking to his flatmate and saying, "I'd be cool to be like top 30." And they were like, "Nah, that's really hard. That's really fast." And then he goes and does that. Like, he's definitely the surprise, but he's obviously got the pedigree.
He's a local, right?
Yeah,
think.
he is.
And
Yep.
Ethan.
Yep. Yeah, so that's got to help.
My personal standout, and I've seen him ride here locally, and he is a fucking unassuming but very impressive rider, is Dan Booker in 5th place.
Yeah.
He's no,
See, I was
no
expecting
joke.
big things, but I wasn't expecting a 5th.
Nah.
Straight off, first pop too. Like,
First
that's
EWS
pretty
for him.
impressive.
What's a bigger result for Dan though, KB? Is it this 5th place at an Aletha in EWS, or is it beating you last year at Crankworks on a trail bike?
Fuck. Well, I feel justified. I feel justified for being beaten now.
He's really good, eh?
He's a sick rider.
legit,
Like
eh?
last year at the Phoenix Enduro in Christchurch, he missed quite a bit of practice because he crashed on lava flow during practice. Shit track to crash on, broke a rib, got pretty beaten up from it. Turns up on race day, and I can't remember if he won or he got second, but he was right there anyway. Like, he was challenging for the win if he didn't win. It was fucking gnarly.
Yeah, that's unreal, eh? That's
nuts.
pretty impressive.
Sam Dale making a
I
return in
was just gonna
7th place
say,
too.
Sandell, low key slayer. He's obviously having fun out there.
Good for Eddie in 8th.
My
Sorry, Red
standout,
Dog, you
great,
didn't get
great.
your standout.
Great for Eddie in 8th. That was awesome to see him back in the fold, really. Like, I reckon that's rad. My standout was Colin in 10th.
Yeah, 10th place.
Yeah,
His first top 10, right?
probably is too.
I think it's his first top 10 with Ibis. I think he might have had a 10th before.
But that's
I think
3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
So
it's going back a little bit.
Now. Yeah.
But
Yeah, I reckon I was surprised to see him that high up. I thought he'd be top 20 solid and then build through the year. But if he can maintain that, holy, that's like whipping. I mean, 2 Kiwis in the top 10. That's pretty epic.
He had a 4th in Rotorua in 2019 at the opener. And then he had a 9th in Derby at the following round.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's his best result. Yeah, definitely in recent. Like, he's been hovering more around the kind of 20th sort of thing last year. So, no, that was good. He came and did the Mammoth Enduro in Nelson here just towards the end before he went overseas, and pretty sure he might have had COVID at the time. It was pretty crook.
That's right.
And he won every stage except for one. He had a pretty big crash on one stage, and that's what lost the overall for him. But yeah, he beat Brady Stone, who's no joke, especially in Nelson. On all but one stage. So he was looking pretty good.
Pretty cool.
It was a good Kiwi contingent there, actually, which is really cool to see guys getting back over there.
Well, I was looking at it, and I'm like, fuck, there's a lot of Kiwis there. And then it wasn't until it dawned on me that guys can travel again. So it makes sense. Yeah. Like, there's a whole bunch of, privateer dudes and that are over there racing. So it took me a minute to realise why there was so many people.
Yeah. Interesting ones for me. So Jack Moore, what's he had, a shoulder reconstruction or something, eh?
Yeah, he dislocated it last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's coming off injury, so it'll be interesting to see at the next few rounds if he can build off that. But Charlie Murray back in 31st. I thought he would be higher up than that. But I don't know if maybe I was just overthinking things.
I think, KB, you may know. Has he had a niggly injury or something?
Possibly. I'm not too sure. But, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't probably read too much into his first round for him. See how he goes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's It is interesting. I mean, who's up above that is kind of randomly there that we're probably not going to see again? Well, Adam Brayton in 18th. To be fair, that's a pretty solid effort.
The Keswick Kestrel.
Yeah.
There's definitely a few names in there that I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, there's a few people with numbers in the hundreds and the high, high, close to 100 sort of thing. And like I said to Red Dog, I'm like, this just in, enduro racing is no joke. Like, you can't just go there for an easy result anymore.
No, not at all.
Because guys were like, I said to KB today, like guys are stoked on a top 100, and guys used to be stoked with a top 30, and that would be it, right? Things have.
Well, it used to be if you were top 20, you were like contender,
Yeah.
If you were top 20, that was like epic. Now, if you're top 50, that's epic. If you're top 100, they're doing well.
Doing pretty well, yeah. It's crazy.
I've got an issue here, guys, that I need to bring up that I've just come across.
I know what you're about to
Bradley
say.
Harris. Yeah. He is in the results as B-Rad Harris, and I'm not okay with that.
Is it just the Roots and Rain results? Thank you to Roots and Rain.
Yeah, but I don't understand. Why the fuck is in there as that?
Can we reach out to him? Can we reach out to him?
I'm going to reach out to the guy that runs Roots and Rain
to get that fixed.
Yeah.
To get that rectified.
We're going
to have to rectify this.
Brady Stone down in 46th.
Yeah,
he was another one who I thought might be up there a bit further, but I don't know.
Thought he'd be up higher. But again,
I mean, he's just ahead of Win by a little bit, a couple of seconds. I thought Lewis Buchanan might have done better, being pretty local.
Oh,
but I also think that he probably heaped a whole bunch of pressure on himself because he's
no doubt
internet famous now. That's no hate, but like that's got to add some pressure. But being a local, I think he's probably. Well, in fact, I did see a Insta post from him the other day about how he was like, I just wasn't up to par on the day, kind of thing, which is fair. And Matt Walker in 53rd, just behind him. That's probably a pretty solid effort considering the dude's been off the bike for how long.
Yeah, he got fucked up. And
injury prone.
Then he had to have surgery on his shoulder and that. So he hasn't been back on the bike too long. So that's pretty solid.
Yeah, totally.
He'll get stronger and stronger. But then there's dudes like, I don't know, there's like Mitch Ropolato in 57th. Like you kind of think more of him. Jose Borges, I don't know how you say his surname. He's on the Canyon team and he was in 56th. Like, he had a 150th on the first stage, so that's not a good place for him.
When you look at the time gap, I mean, where are we here? So, I don't know, say 65th, Miles Morgan was a minute and a half back. So it's pretty tight for 60 riders, but the top, where are we? So the top 20 was within a minute, 52 seconds.
Fuck, that's still a lot, though.
It is, yeah.
Well, especially when you consider the overall time.
Well, yeah, especially when you consider the overall time, the percentage-wise, that's a good call.
Here's a story for you, though. Off side note, I got alerted to this by friend of the show, Supergrom. So there's a young guy over there called Matt Fairbrother who's from Christchurch. I know him reasonably well from when I was down there. He raced under 21s, but that's not really a story. So he raced that, and then the night after the race, or the night of the race after it finished, he rode 85 Ks from Innerleithen. This is on the road. So he's basically bike packing down to the next round right now.
Yeah.
The next day, he did 88. Yeah, 88 Ks down to the ferry, caught the ferry, and then the next day he's done 276 kilometres, all on, like, he's put slicks on, but he's on his enduro bike still, just with, like, just full bike packing.
278 kilometre ride on his enduro bike, loaded with slicks. That is insanity.
12, nearly 13 hours, like, from Amsterdam down into Germany, down to Cologne.
Oh,
that's unreal.
He did.
He's going to Leogang, I think, isn't he?
I think he might
I think
be.
that's
I don't
where
know
he's
whether
headed.
he's headed for the next EWS or what, but it's still
I think he was going via Leogang for some reason.
probably going to
Win
call in and
interviewed
watch.
him. Win interviewed him on Win TV, which was pretty cool to see. And the kid said that when he said, "Oh, what's your biggest ride?" and he was like, "Oh, 400 k's on a mountain bike." Like, that is no joke.
And he's 18, I think, 17 or 18. Like he did an Everest last year, and on like Vic Park in Christchurch, which is a shit steep climb. And he Everested that. At one point, he smashed his face into his handlebars and like was just it pretty much had like a huge gash in like his bottom of his mouth somewhere, I think, and like just kept going, charged on. He's got a lot of heart. So
That's insane.
Yeah.
That brings to mind Jesse from Wellington Everesting on the Yenna Trail. I mean, that's just bonkers.
Yeah, nah, fuck that.
Absolutely, yeah.
It was wet too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was slippery,
Imagine how cooked you'd be, like, 10 or 11 hours in or whatever, and still trying to ride that.
Oh, yeah, I would have curled up in a bush.
I just would have
done.
done. I would have done one lap and decided that was enough for the day.
It's because you're a downhiller, really. You're not a
Yeah,
hardened gravel rider.
would have put the
Elliot
bike
Smith
on the
put him
truck
in
and gone
retirement.
home.
What's that, Red Dog?
Elliot Smith put KB into Enduro retirement last year.
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
Fucking Elliot. I quit. Fucking Juro.
yeah.
We're downhill guys again. We're downhill
Yeah.
guys.
You've fully gone off the buzz.
Nah.
Have you heard of gravel, KB?
Yeah, I think it's my
Right,
next
you
thing.
can't get beaten.
Yeah.
No, I'm going gravel racing. That's my next thing.
Oh, no.
There's going to be gravel nationals. They've just started to announce it. They haven't got a date out yet, but I just see they've announced there's going to be gravel nationals soon.
Oh, it's my calling. There's my calling right there.
Count us in.
I'd love it.
There's a race coming up in November in Waimate, south of Christchurch. There, 240 kilometres gravel race.
Oh, I
So
saw that.
I
Massive.
expect to see you guys on the start line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll be there. The OTB podcast might sponsor it. I don't know what we can give them. Maybe we can give them some coverage.
We're a gravel podcast now.
We could commentate the race.
There you go. Yeah, no worries.
I don't know much about what's going on, but we could commentate it.
You're good at
Hey,
ripping people though. So
Speaking of gravel, did you guys see the story about the chick that shot the other cycling chick? I can't think of the name.
Gnarly.
Mo Wilson. Yeah.
Yeah,
Kristen Armstrong.
that's the
Kristen
one.
Armstrong? No,
Something
Did
like
not.
that.
did not incriminate someone who it wasn't.
It was. I was just trying
Kristen
to Google it.
Armstrong is Lance Armstrong's ex-wife.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's what I was thinking. That sounded all too familiar. Basically, there was one guy who is a pretty well-renowned US gravel racer who was dating this chick. They had a bit of a break. He started dating this other chick briefly. Went back to his original one that he'd been with for quite some time. She got jealous and pretty much turned up and shot the other one, and now is on the run.
Is she actually on the run?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's so they put out a $5,000 reward for her. Caitlin Armstrong is her name.
That's it.
Wow.
Mo Wilson, is that who it was that she killed?
Yeah, that's super gnarly, eh?
So
Right.
gnarly.
That is just nuts, man. It just goes to
Now
show
that-
that guns are bad.
Chicks are crazy.
Yeah, well,
Don't worry, we've got no female listeners, so it's fine. If we do,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
it sounds like we don't know any of these people, but Colin Strickland has been caught in the middle, but it also seems like he was not the best at picking the women that he goes out with, and probably not the best at dealing with running two at the one time.
He might have been playing hide the sausage in more than one place.
Yeah. But I mean, he's just lost his ride. He's lost he's
RAF has dropped him, Specialized dropped him. Red Bull were pretty much like, it's a matter for the authorities at the moment. There was someone else that he'd lost as well.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good.
Nah.
Oh, so he
It's,
got caught up in the middle of it. Wow.
Yeah, this is what gravel racing does to people.
makes you crazy.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, it's nuts that that she's gone on the run and is obviously like hiding from the authorities.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The last they saw of her was they had footage of her like boarding a flight to New York or something, because this was in Texas, I think, that it all went down, and she's on the run now.
Yeah, that's just bananas. Hard to believe.
Insanity.
Oh, it's unfortunate too. Like, she was obviously a super nice chick, and that Mo Wilson, and super talented. And like, I mean, I listened to so many podcasts, and she'd recently been on heaps of them saying that, you know, she's just given up her job and was going full time racing and rah. So yeah, she kind of, it's all just been cut short. Unfortunate.
Yeah,
Insane.
America.
Yeah, what a place.
Shout out to all the American listeners right now.
we don't reach that.
I don't know if we've got many of them. I think we've got one or two.
One or two, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought maybe we'd get to Canada, but I talked to Dan Sims the other day, and he had no idea we had a podcast, so our reach can't be there.
Simsy didn't know.
No, we've got our Canadian fan. Remember, he messaged me, and he was at Karka at Oceanias in 2008.
No,
He remember watching.
We've got one Canadian fan. Shout out to him.
Sorry, I can't remember your name, but shout out to our Canadian fan.
Hey man, sorry we can't remember your name.
We really,
but we don't
really value the fans. Yeah,
I've had a lot going on lately. Leave me alone. Speaking of fans, Red Dog, you're a big fan of Troy Brosnan, and I'm going to segue over to Leogang now. He's back.
Oh well, firstly, you've done the classic KB, and you haven't touched on the women's EWS. And you had a first time winner.
All right.
Yeah.
Rewind. I'm going to have to cut that part out. It's not okay to touch on women unless they say it's okay, though.
Oh, yeah,
I
sorry.
thought we went through this after the last time you guys recorded.
It was raised by Lester himself.
So just disappointed. I wasn't angry. I was just disappointed.
Nah. Sorry, Dad. Was it Ella Connolly?
Yeah, I reckon that's so sad
Canada.
that she won. Yeah.
Yeah, on the Canada. I didn't really know they had a proper enduro team again. But
Do they? Or is it
Isn't
kind
it
of
her and Ropalato, isn't it? And that's it.
I guess you'd call that a proper team. Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. She's been coming on like the last couple of years, and it's real cool to see her take the win. And then I think Bex Barona in second. Won there last year, didn't she? So
Do
cool
you
to see
know
her back
why?
up with Beauty.
It's because Roots and Rain don't have the women's results on there. Because I scrolled down to the bottom of there and just totally forgot about it because of the fact they weren't on there. So I blame it partially on myself and also partially on Roots and Rain.
So
What are you trying to say? That Roots and Rain is sexy?
I'm just going to rewind a little bit back to Matthew Fairbrother. He got 11th in the under 21s.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
That's pretty impressive. Didn't he
1.5 minutes back. So, and Guy Johnson was a 9th. Obviously, first year enduro guy.
Yeah.
Is he an enduro guy now?
Yeah, he must be.
He's both. He's racing downhill as well.
Yeah.
You used to be like that, KB. You used to do both, and then got
I used
soft.
to, but now I'm a gravel guy.
Oh, from the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Here we go, woman. Ella Connolly. Oh, yeah, she was 7 seconds up on Barona.
Barona. Sing the song, Red Dog.
Oh, the My Sharona.
The Bex Barona. Yeah, we should put My Sharona in as the intro this week.
Bex Barona.
Yeah.
Every time I hear a name,
it was pretty tight at the top of the women's field there. Like the Ray Morrison was a 9th, and she was a minute back. Everyone else, it was pretty tight. Really,
that's
mind
a
you,
stacked
short
field in the women's, Like,
yeah.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah, it's seriously deep now, which is awesome.
So they had 6 stages. The women had all 6. I reckon the dark horse for the season for me could be that Harriet Harnden on Trek Factory.
Yeah,
Like,
she goes real good.
every time she's had a decent day on the bike, like not a mechanical or a massive crash, she's done real well.
Mm. Yeah, she had a couple
And
of wins last year, didn't she?
yeah. What did she win a? Did she win a round? I think she did win a round.
I think she may have even won two.
She definitely had a lot of stage.
Yeah,
She was consistent as well.
actually, you said Leicester just then that they did 6 stages, and obviously the elite men got one canned because due to Casper crashing, and that's fair enough. But do you think it was a little weird that like there was a few guys still at the top, and the stage got cancelled, and they just rolled on over to the top of the next stage? They didn't have to do. I don't think
They
had to
should
Yeah.
have sent them down the track so that they still covered the same amount of kilometres.
It seemed a bit weird to me.
It's
That's my
definitely an
opinion.
interesting one. I think there was a bit of conjecture on conjuncture on Pink Bike today about around that. Like, how does the EWS? What do they do to even the playing field when you pull a stage? I mean, we've had it in New Zealand and multiple times. There's been, I don't know about the South Island ones, but definitely in the North we've had stages pulled out after you've like
Oh,
had you.
start me.
Oh, I was with you that day, wasn't
Yeah.
I? Like, and it's happened a number of times, and you're just like, well, you play the card to go and do the stages early or first or whatever, and then you get dicked on because either somebody crashes and they pull the stage out later, or it's too muddy and people complain. Like,
Yeah, that 2W,
Yeah, so it's-
they canned like 2 stages, and they were the 2 stages that Lester and I had already done, because you could do them whatever order you wanted, and it was so muddy, and my eyes were hammered, like they were so red and sore from mud, and you could hardly ride the tracks because they were so cut up.
well, and
But,
we
like,
made the call to do them early because
Yeah.
we knew that was going to. Well, we knew they would get worse, so we were like, well, tactically, this is our hand. We're going to play.
we're going to run these ones early, and then they cancelled them. And so, like, we were sprinting at the end trying to make the cutoff. Like, poor old Bangsy's like, he can't even stop. He's just sprinting to the end. And then we get
Bangsy's
back
been
to the
dropped.
finish, and there's dudes just kicking around like, oh, yeah, we've been back here for hours. Like, where have you guys been? It's like, how many stages do you do? Oh, 4? It's like,
No,
oh,
see,
we
that's
did
fucked.
6.
If they've put them in any order, you shouldn't be able to pull stages. But like, I mean, obviously
I
they pulled this one because they were, Casper was down for a while or whatever. But I don't know, they should have just sent them down and detoured them around off the side or something, because they should still do the same amount of climbing and everything. Whoever's left over.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
a hard one, Because obviously they don't. I mean, from what I read, they were saying that because it was a course hold for a while before they closed it or pulled it, because there was already that big delay, it would have blown the timing for the rest of the day out.
Okay.
So they can't just go, okay, well, now you can roll down past Casper convulsing on the side of the track. You're gonna.
That's a tough one.
And, like, what do? You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And the other side to that is that the same thing, if that's the way they roll, then the same thing could happen in 2 rounds' time. And, you could be at the, you might be the guy who is gets the advantage out of it, I don't know. But I guess the other side to looking at it is that the fastest guys, because it's essentially seeded, Richie is always going to be the guy who wins out of that deal, right? If you pull a stage, he's probably going to be the guy who hasn't had to do it. So
he gets the best possible odds.
Maybe they make him do like a whole lot of burpees or something. All right, we pulled the stage. 100 burpees from you. Did I don't get down?
Yeah, before the next stage, you've got to do like X number of kilojoules or whatever on your Garmin before you can drop in.
Let's lobby this to Chris Ball. We'll get it put in for next round.
Yeah, burpee rule.
Actually, I'm just looking at the elite women and actually the elite men. It's quite interesting because Richie won by just over 5 seconds. Ella won by 7 seconds, so not that much different. Third place was 14, and both men and women, third place was 14 seconds back. And then fourth place for the women was 30, and fourth place for the men was 21. So like quite similar gaps through the through both men and women, which is quite interesting. Like obviously the kind of level is quite similar between everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting.
I never looked at it like that. It's really interesting.
That's my TED talk.
There you go. Well done.
Now you can move on to Leogang, Kieran. You're free of Enduro.
All right, is Troy back? Will he
I
be
don't
back?
know, but damn, I hope so. Just
He won last year.
All I can say is that when he does come back, you know that he's going to be probably at exactly the level he left at. Like he seems to me the kind of guy who's not going to show up unless he can be as good as he can be.
He doesn't really stray from the top 5. Like he is he's just.
No, and he's had to miss 2 rounds already. So like, why would he bother rushing back? He's out of the overall. So
hang on, he's not out of the overall, Kieran. He's not out of the overall.
How many points is he back right now?
Oh, heaps. But I mean, there could be some catastrophic injuries to both.
Is a plane going to crash on the way to Mont Saint Anne or something with all the top contenders?
Yeah. It's possible.
All right. It's possible. I'll put that out there for you. So
I'm looking forward to him being back, though, because as I said in the last podcast, I've had to become a Benoit from accounts guy. And I don't have a problem with being a Benoit from accounts guy. I've got a lot of time for Benoit. But T-Roy is my guy. Ever since he wore those cool Specialized kits, he's been my guy.
What about when he wore UFO kits?
That was niche, but he was still my guy.
Big fan of the UFO kits.
You're fully committed, aren't you, Red Dog?
I'm fully committed, yeah. Well, it's a family thing. Like Pip's also a T-Roy guy. I think we just graduated from Sam Hill to T-Roy. Like it was the logical progression.
No, that hurts me. Surely not. You can still be a Sam Hill guy, even though he's not down
Sam Hill guy. It's like don't get me wrong. I'll forever be a Sam Hill guy.
Forever,
he's not racing downhill anymore, so I have to pick someone else, and it's T-Roy.
Yeah, I wouldn't step to there. I don't know. I tell you, I've warmed to the Frenchies actually lately. Watched some of those Commensal vids that they put out, and granted there were some cringy bits in them, but I was like, the French guys have definitely they've gone the way of Gracia, not the way of Nico. Like they're pretty fast and loose versus pretty
real loose,
Yeah. And that looseness seems to be paying off in their racing in general.
They
for the common style dudes anyway, I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at dudes like Tebow and Emery, and they're like 110%. Like they're full send.
Yeah, but how good is that to watch? It's all it's either win or lose, right? Like you're going to win or you're going to go down. That's great. Flames.
So I don't know. I haven't really looked at the forecast or anything for Leogang, but it'll be hopefully it's not a real wet one. It looks dry at the moment, but it looks, when we had that last wet one, World Champs in the woods, that was pretty horrific for them. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I was actually watching some of the couple of the team videos from like early Leogang, like 2012, 2013 kind of era, and man, that was a gnarly track back then. There was it was way gnarlier than it is today.
Well, I think the bottom's probably gnarlier than what it maybe was back then. I raced it the first year.
Did you race Leogang?
To race in 2010, and I broke a chain in qualifying. And that was the first year it ran, and I didn't realise that it's run a race, like either a World Champs or a World Cup, every year since then.
Neither.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go. I did not realise that either.
And so it's like, but you're right, KB. Like that initial track was a lot different. Although I think it's a very similar line, it's a lot different to what it is now.
It's lost a lot of trees since then.
Trees. Yeah.
All the trees up the top are gone, which has opened it up and that a lot more. But it's pretty cool. Like we went there and watched in 2019, and it's a good track to watch. It's definitely not just. It kind of like I think it gets a bit of a rap as being a bad rap as just being like kind of fast and not that technical, but there's definitely some, you still got to be a good rider to win that place. Like, it's no joke. There's a big motorway section, but there's a lot of technical stuff in there too.
Yeah, there's real key bits that you can either win or lose in those key areas, can you? Between those motorways. I'm just looking at the weather now, and it looks like it should be fine. Like raining leading up to it.
Yeah.
And then
it should be good then.
Fine Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. So who knows? But it'd be cool if it was dry. It always seems like a bit of a downer there if it's wet. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Because this was the race. This was the one that Gwyn famously won when he snapped his chain, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that was wet,
Conference.
No, I think it was dry.
That was dry.
Was it dry? Okay.
Yeah.
Kieran,
But
I mean,
do you
that
think
is
that'll
one
happen again, Red Dog? This could be the place where you win your beers.
I mean, I was about to say he's won four of the races that have been there of the World Cups. That's more than any other rider by a long way. I think the closest is Greg, who's won 2. So all I'm saying, Kieran, is you better put those beers on ice because we're coming, and there's a podium this weekend.
Hang on, we're talking about Aaron Gwyn here, not some other Gwyn who's just started racing.
Yeah, no, Aaron Gwyn. This is his track. This is his house.
Not a chance.
I'm cashing in 12 beers this weekend, Lester.
I do agree. I would have agreed with you if you just read this on paper and someone said there's this guy who's won 4 times and one of them he had no chain. You'd be
He's
like,
the second most winningest rider of all time.
And it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You'd maybe agree. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
We're coming.
Definitely. Yeah.
Who would you pick? Who are you picking, Lester? Like, who would be your pick?
For a winner or for who's going to win this bet?
Just a winner. No, I think the bet's clear, but I'll hang on to it.
If Bruni wasn't broken, I would say he's probably a pretty good bet on this track.
Oh, man, I forgot he was hurt.
I think Manar will be up there, but I think that he probably won't win. That's all I can say about that. I reckon he'll be on the podium because I think he would have. Where did he get it? Fort William.
He's 7th, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So he's still up there, but I think that would have just given him the sniff, and now he'll be on it. And I reckon he'll be either podium or just off. But Vergier, maybe?
Oh, that's a good call, actually.
He always seems to... I can't think of if he's... I don't know what his previous results have been there, but it just seems potentially like he's due something good.
2021 wasn't a good start for him, but I can't even find him in the results here at the moment. I don't know what happened there. He DNF'd.
Crashed or
flat tire or something maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was at the back from the very first split, so
one thing on Fort Will, it definitely looked like there was more flat tires than normal there, eh? I know you guys have already covered that track, but is that going to be a more common thing we see, or I don't know?
Yeah, I'm not sure there. It did seem like there were a few more flats and things. But maybe it was like due to the conditions where it's like you can't really see that well.
Maybe, yeah.
The rain, they're just kind of like hoping.
True.
But surely these guys are running like, an insert or something.
Well, a lot of them aren't, eh? From what I heard.
What's wrong with them?
Was it in the commentating at Fort Will? They were saying that some of them were running like lightweight enduro casings because they thought that the rolling resistance was that much better.
Oh,
that's a dumb idea.
Yeah, well, that's what I would have thought
risky.
too.
It's risky.
Yeah.
Same with the dropped chains as well. Like there's a few dropped chains at Fort William.
Heaps, and at the enduro too. Do you think that high pivot bikes drop chains more?
Yes.
Yeah.
It definitely looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. You've got way more chain and way less contact patch on the front chainring, which doesn't help.
Exactly. No.
So something they need to work out.
Yeah, but it's it's a bit of a bummer because, like, what use is your bike being 3% better or whatever it might be, if it is any better, just different, 3% different, than if you've got no chain.
Yeah. So
Apparently it's
Mr.
okay for
Hibbage-
Gwen. So, Leogang.
True, yeah, true.
his last win was this opening round of 2018. Just FYI,
Whose?
Gwyn's.
2018.
Yeah,
I mean,
Man.
it seems like yesterday to me, but it's 4 years ago.
that was in
a
Croatia.
lifetime ago.
Yeah,
Oh, was it Croatia?
True, yeah, it would have been too. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him get back to the top, but he's just, everything is against him at the moment. I mean, flip, they didn't even have a bike, like, how many weeks before the first round?
yeah.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah, I
just
mean,
this-
that's a red flag. That's a red flag.
yeah.
It's just nothing, yeah, it's just all against him. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just sure that his new contracts won't be quite as lucrative as his old ones. I'm sure he's running out of tyre brands to have tyres with. So
Off-brand tires.
Off-brand tyres. I mean, I've got plenty of respect for him. He's the second most winning rider of all time, but he's not.
100%.
He's not getting the podium this season.
Nah.
It's not happening.
Will he beat Minar's win record?
Nah, no way. He's not getting another win. I'd put Beers on that as well.
That's an interesting one too. Like, so how many years has Minar been racing? 25 or something.
Fuck, something like that. 2000-ish.
No, I'd be
99, 98.
98.
So
what
however long it
101.
is. True, yeah. So, I mean, he's maintained that level for so long, and then you compare to Gwyn, who has, how many successful years would he have had in a row? 5? 4?
He had
At
those
the
years
top.
where he was just winning everything.
Yeah.
Where he
Yeah.
just won for like 5 years.
His dominance has just been way shorter, and whatever the reason, I mean, flip, the dude is just unreal on the bike still, but, you know, that just goes to show how impressive Minar's streak has been. Like, that's just
But
phenomenal.
you'd almost say like most guys. I mean, even look at Hill. Although in my mind he never lost a race. Like he was only truly dominant for like 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Kind of like 06, 7, 8.
8.
Doesn't matter how dominant you are when you've got that style, though, and that.
Nah, it doesn't. Not at all.
I mean,
If you're,
Nah, he changed things a lot. But like, I mean, we were talking about it with Horse. I mean, apart from Minar, everyone's just got younger. Like, looking at Fort William, this is the year of birth, so it's like 96, 01, 97, 94, 99, 96, and then you got Minar, who is 81. Even like Danny Hart, 91, 02, 95. It's all 90s kids now.
yeah, that's unreal, eh?
The next person born in the 80s was Ben Cathro in 24th.
oh, wow. And he'd already
Wow, that's
retired
crazy.
once and came back.
Yeah.
And then Win Masters in 40th. He's the next 87, so he's the same year as me. Brayton in 44th and 88. So yeah, it's just, I mean, our generation's gone. It's over.
Your generation, my generation,
Yeah.
is long gone. We were still racing on hardtails.
Yeah, there's not many 80s kids in there anymore. It's heartbreaking.
Yep, it certainly is.
So, who do you think's going to win, KB? What's your pick there?
Oh man, I'm bouncing back and forward between one of the common sale guys. I reckon I can't really decide between DePrella or Perron, but I think I wouldn't be surprised to see those guys 1 and 2, and then I'm actually going to put this is a tough one to put out there, but I'm going to put it common sale 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to put Benoit from Accounts in 3rd.
Yes.
Ooh. Wow, actually, yeah, he's on the up, isn't he?
He was top five last year, and he's right there. Yeah, I think I'm going to put
he hasn't
those.
had a win yet.
No.
Oh,
But
maybe.
he's
Imagine that.
solid.
That's quite sick. Yeah. Imagine that though. Common sale, like props to those guys. They're just all about the racing, eh? It's pretty rad.
Well, they've got half of the field on bikes now because they've got like 83 teams.
Yeah, yeah, not wrong.
It's just the product of them investing in it, though, eh? Like, they've
Yeah.
obviously put a lot in there.
They
And
must
over
just be
the years, you
constantly.
start to get it.
They must just be constantly building frames for team riders to keep them all in stock.
It's crazy. The number of bikes that they must have out there at any one time. I mean, no other team would even come close to that.
No,
What
well,
other
they've got
teams
their
have many
they've
bikes
got their
out
common
there?
soul muck off, which is like Perron and Deprella, and then they've got the 100% common soul team with Angel Suarez, and then they've got the Dorval team, which is like Coulanges and Baptiste Perron, and it's there's a lot of solid riders through various teams.
Actually, Canyon's probably started to scratch at that too. Like they've got a bunch of bikes out there.
Yeah,
I guess they've got they've got the factory team and the collective, and that Pirelli one, and so there's a few out there.
It's interesting, eh? The real big brands like your Giant, Trek, and Specialized are all got their own factory team, and that is not completely it, but they're a lot less visible.
Who else rides a Giant other than the factory team?
Well,
like you just don't see. You don't see anybody on them. Yeah, it's Tyrrell. That's it. Like, fuck.
Well, they bring out a new bike every year that looks exactly like the one previous. Oh, we've got this new bike in development. What's
bold new
different?
graphics.
Change the head tube angle or something.
There was like a new rain at the EWS, and I was like, it just looks like the old one.
Looks like the same rain from the last 10 years.
So until they can get away from that existing Maestro design,
I feel like Giant has kind of turned into a budget brand. Like they used to be a kind of, one of the big ones, and they're just, I don't know, they've just kind of faded into obscurity a little bit.
They did leave Downhill for a period though, and then came back with like Danny and Neathling and stuff, because they didn't really.
Yeah, they went away again. Yeah,
they were actually pretty good in that period.
Yeah,
I think they were somewhat. I mean, you think about how popular like those second generation glories were,
massive,
and they were legit at the time. They were legit, but they haven't really massively moved on in suspension tech since then. I'm sure their geometry's probably okay, but you've got to have suspension to match it, right?
You've got to think that there's some of these privateer teams that would just be crying out for free frames that, like these other people could, these brands could take advantage of, like some of these brands like GT and Giant and that don't have a lot out there where they could throw out some frames and, start filling up the field a bit. But yeah, I don't know.
It's just not in their wheelhouse, I guess.
Yeah, they've obviously picked like a strategy, and like downhill racing's not a huge part of it.
And I think that comes back to like Commensal, Max Commensal just loves racing. So he probably pushes for that. And then like, it's kind of like the Syndicate, and Roscop just loves downhill racing. So the Syndicate always, gets pushed to the top of the pile because he, that's his baby and he just loves downhill racing. And so it's like, I guess it all comes down to what the brand is interested in doing.
That's right. And for them, the ROI is probably not as important as it is for like Trek, Trek has a race team to market their bikes. That's the bottom line. And, they hire a marquee rider when they have a new bike. And the same thing will happen in Enduro. That's why this year they don't have, Pedro's back, but he's not really a podium contender at the moment. Their bike
next year.
Well, in theory, their bike should be due for an overhaul next year. Yeah, so you'd think they'll probably be searching for another big name. They kind of hoped that was going to be, what's his name? The French dude who's just left.
Why can't I remember his name?
Can't remember his name. He's now riding a BH.
Florian Nicolai.
Yeah, so I think that they brought him in when they relaunched the Slash, but that obviously he didn't have a great time at all. I think he maybe had a couple of good races, but certainly that's the way I would see it anyway, is those guys have got X amount of budget and that's it. Like, I know that that's the way it rolls with Trek, but I guess the other thing you got to look at is they got an overall sports marketing budget, and some of that'll be downhill, some of that's the cross country, and some of that's just influencers. And the influencer piece is like bigger and bigger, you know?
Oh, especially when they've got these people that get like millions of views on YouTube to show people how to bunny hop and shit like that. And they're just like, yeah, sweet. Return on investment, eyeballs. Exactly. That's all they want. Yep. They want to prove the ROI.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know. I'm not... Yeah.
This is a whole nother rabbit hole. This could be my race team.
We could do another whole podcast on influencer.
Speaking of influencers and rants, I think these juniors need to spend less time fucking filming Insta bangers when they're midweek between races and spend more time doing downhill runs and working on their speed. I don't give a fuck about you squaring up a turn or doing a whip. Show me some speed.
I could not agree more, Kerry. I could not agree more. I don't care about your stupid edit with your bloody rap musics. All I want to see is speed, okay? I don't care if you do. Yeah, as you said, put some air in your damn tyre and stop sawing those turns in half.
Yeah.
Show us some speed.
I'll be the old man sitting on the front porch shouting at clouds, but that's how I feel.
You've totally summed up. Like, you're the different generations that have come through watching the Sam Hills and those guys who could square a turn up, but the attraction of that was just going hella fast through whatever was put in front of them.
Yeah.
And then these other young 13-year-old kids who are looking up to the mountain bikers want to see the squaring off with 12 psi in the tire. That's what they froth on. Doesn't matter how fast you go anymore. It's just what you look like.
There will be, and this makes me sad, there will be a generation of riders that will look at influencers and see that as a potential career. So, they're not going to be racers or, whatever other pathway in mountain biking. They're going to be influencers.
We've had this discussion with Caleb Smith, and it may or may not have been about his son. But
the thing is that
who we had it with.
Yeah.
I don't know what your conversation was with him, but the thing is that you can be like, I'm about you being an influencer if they're legit, and if they can do stuff outside of being an influencer. But if you just exist to be a mountain bike influencer, I have zero time for you, because how do you have credibility if you haven't raced before, even at a mediocre level? I don't know. It's kind of like a rally car driver being I was going to say it's a little bit like Ken Block, but no, that's a bad analogy.
But he's a good racer as well. It'd be like Ken Block if he hadn't done well in rally racing.
Exactly. Well, it would be the equivalent of me going, I'm going to be a rally influencer, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to do some handbrakies at the end of the road around the corner. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a rally influencer. Even though
you do that on Friday nights with all your mates and you drink diesels and then just leave all your cans behind?
Actually, the funniest
thing... He does live in the Waikato.
Well, how's this yarn? There were these two guys, two local, I'm pretty sure they were mobsters, would go and do massive skids 500 metres from our house, just around a corner. And one night I heard the two tyres go bang, bang. And then I hear the car, it goes quiet for a minute, and I hear the car race off down the road just on the rims. And the next day I go out there, this is like a Thursday night, I think. Next day I go to work, and hanging up on the street sign, it's the two shredded tires that have peeled off the carcasses. Yeah, just hanging, just basically wire. It was unreal.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's how we roll.
We had a similar one in Christchurch because we were down near the bottom of Dyer's Pass and Mum and Dad were staying, and Mum's like, did you hear that car come around the corner last night? It sounded like it was, just dragging half the car. And then I was going down the street in the morning and there's a Subaru and it's got no door skin on the passenger's door. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yes. The front wheel, they've obviously hit something. The front wheel's fucked on the driver's side. And then that day I go for a ride and I'm riding up Dyer's Pass and there's a silver door skin sitting in the gutter And like that obviously just overshot this turn and just peeled it straight into the bank and ripped the whole side of the like door skin and everything off. And they'd like spun it around and limped it back down the hill and got it kind of as far away as they could until they could get it out of there again.
That's gold.
Fucking bogans.
Yeah, they're
I've got a few just to finish this off. I've got a few questions here that we had sent in. First is, well, there's a couple of. I actually, we're going to get Lester back on at some point because I want to do a deep dive into Kiwi. But we've got one, and can Moki please tell us a tale from the Kiwi bus days?
just a single tale.
Yeah, just give us one good story because I'm sure we'll get lots more when we get back into it. But
oh man, I don't know where you would even begin. Well, the first time that here's kind of. I brought a Kiwi one time, secondhand, my first one that I had, because Doddsy always had them somehow. Well, I know how he did, but we can get into that when we do a deep dive.
It'll be very Doddsy focused.
Yeah. So he would always have these mint Kiwis set up, and at the time he was racing Norbers in the US and coming backwards and forwards. And I was like, man, I got to get me one of those. And so I managed to upgrade. I think I borrowed some money off my parents. Managed to upgrade from the Avanti Moto to this Kiwi secondhand, and it was one of the ones that they did with an adjustable head tube on it, which had two like concentric thingies on the front, and you could adjust the head tube. But of course, you only ever had it in full
that's
slack.
In the future.
Oh man, it was at the time. In the future, for sure.
Still was like a 65-degree head angle when it was slack.
It would have been something like that. And so this is well prior to it being sold to Torpedo 7. Anyway, got this bike, went out with the Lynch brothers, who at the time, anyone who was around back then, we were riding in Narrawahia, me, Dan and Stu, and I must have had...
Yeah, were you at Rick's house?
No, we weren't at Rick's house this time, but we had been at Rick's house, but we were in this bush up the back, which Beavis and Doddsy and the Lynch boys and me and a few other guys used to go and scuff around on some tracks that were up there. Anyway, I can't remember what we'd ridden this day with the Lynch brothers, and we found this like bank and carved a lip into it, and we were just doing these massive big hucks to flat kind of step ups. And that was when I was realizing that I'd undersprung the back end of my bike, and the shock was bottoming out and pushing the lower shock mount, and because it was steel, it was just like pressing its way into the down tube. And by the end of it, it had got to the point where I was just like, well, it's rooted. So we were passing the bike between three of us and just hucking it as big as we could, and in the end punching the shock mount into the frame. And then I had to go and fess up to Trevor from Kiwi the week after I roll out there, and I'm like, look, I've wrecked my bike, and he's like, well, it's definitely not a warranty. And I'm like, yeah, I'm well aware of that. So that was kind of the gateway for me into getting into Kiwis, and that was when I met Trevor properly the first time, and having not really met him properly in the past, and then from there was like we kind of grew into that relationship a bit more, and that was, a lot of other things happened and a lot of water under the bridge, but yeah, that was kind of the start of the Kiwi thing for me.
I'm looking forward to just talking about Kiwi for a while, because that's a strong part of New Zealand history. So that's a good one for another day.
It's real interesting, because when we were saying that we should do this deep dive sometime, and I'm just like, there's so much stuff that I probably have forgotten, but I'm sure that once we get into it, and I mean that there, as far as the Kiwi, the actual old school Kiwi side of it goes, there's other dudes out there who have whole different views and stories than I have,
Yeah.
I've got my angle on it, but there was dudes way before us. I mean, John Cacaldi and a whole bunch of those dudes on the, what was that team?
Yeah, I didn't realize. I found that out because I was doing a real deep dive on like the dark web into the back of Kiwi, like trying to find out when it was around and everything. So I kind of made a few notes of the early days of when it was kind of started. I was like, Cody was on Kiwi? I never even realised.
Mr. Quinn.
Man.
Yeah, there was a few dudes, and a bunch of them then went on to do big things in the US. Yeah, Ben Sanders. Yeah, yeah, he's back. Sanders is back again. No, that will be a very interesting one. So that was just a little teaser for something coming down the line.
That'll be great. Red Dog, question for you. Who's your favourite band member from Incubus and why is it Chris Kilmore? You can guess who that's from.
Is that from Supergirl?
Yeah. Niche reference.
It's because he made a niche reference at the Dodsy about someone who had dreads. Who was
Looked like
riding
drummer from
by.
Incubus. Or
And he's like, that's someone from Incubus. And I was like, of all the people that have dreads, that's the reference you're going to go with? I don't even know if he had. I looked into it once. I don't even know if he had dreads the whole time. The guy from Incubus. I think it was like a real short period. But anyway, thanks, Supergirl.
Another question for Lester. Who was Big Spoon in the camper, you or Cam? Obviously, this is the story you just came out for. Is it New Zealand mountain biker?
Oh, that's funny. What camper are you talking about? No.
Which time?
Man, he was lucky. He got the upstairs. He was in the pop top. Me and Liam were in the bottom. And
nice.
we top and tailed, so we weren't having to spoon.
Get cozy.
Who's usually the big spoon? Who's usually the big spoon between you and Byron?
I feel like this could be a battle for authority there.
Let's not start down this route. No. There's not usually any spooning. No. We're old enough now that we don't have to spoon, although we have just booked a trip to Canada in a wicked camper for 12 days. Him and I. We will be spooning.
So you say you're old enough, but then last time you guys were in Nelson for a race a couple of years ago, and you go and stay at like the top 10 holiday park, and I'm like, can you guys not afford to just stay at a motel or something with
No,
beds?
that's because we were with the Grommies.
They need to learn. Yeah. They need to start at the Groms. Need to start at the bottom and work their way up. And we start at the top 10.
They can't afford. Flip, I don't want to pay that kind of money either. To be fair, I got people to feed, man.
Chris Vanderkolk wants to know when we're seeing another Quiet Chaos drop. I feel like that ship might have sailed.
Oh, I don't know.
It's got to be back.
I did a shirt actually because I needed a riding shirt, so I got one made for myself.
Where
specialise in gravel.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm
here for. Niche.
Yeah, it's not niche anymore. Gravel's played out. I'm waiting for the next thing. Got to wait for the next thing to come along.
Four Cross is coming back.
Four Cross coming back. How good would that be?
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be good for me because I'm too scared to do any big jumps anymore. But
actually, there was one of your titles that I missed. You were the high jump champion at Tweak 2000. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah. Well, of the mountain bike, I did get beaten by one BMXer, but
no, we don't count 20-inch wheels.
Yeah, actually, that was another part of that whole Kiwi. Well, that was when I wasn't with Kiwi. To be fair, that was
that was Team Stealth.
Team Stealth, yeah. But that was mental, and what that whole thing kind of went on to be was pretty cool. But yeah, that was pretty stupid. Now I think about it, running at full speed into that box jump over a thing like a high jump thing, which ended up getting taped on.
Who was it that hooked up on it and got fucked up?
That was me.
Was it you? There we go. It was a bad idea.
Got the operation scars. Yeah, so that that was a high jump essentially, and we got to the point where the bar was sagging and there was a bit of breeze and it kept blowing off. We'd made it out of some like plumbing pipe, PVC pipe, and it kept falling off. And then so Coxie, who back in the day was doing all the filming of the mountain biking for Sky. Yeah, so Coxie and I were flatting together in the mount at the time. Anyway, he was like, I'll grab some tape. So he ran home and grabbed some like packing tape and like taped the crossbar on. And then the next jump, we were getting tired after sprinting at this thing down the road for I don't know how many times, 100 times or whatever it was. And I just got it a little bit wrong. It was the sun was starting to dip a little bit and I was fully shelled because I think we'd raced that day as well at the Mount Downhill. And then came sprinting in, pull up, hung up on the chain ring on it, and just went straight to the flat on my hands.
Oh, no.
And
man.
Completely wrecked, one wrist broken, dislocated, and then the other one was just pretty well tweaked. And I'd organised the event. So I was supposed to be there after the event, like helping pack it down, and we'd organise contractors and that to come and sort the dirt and whatever, take the dirt away. So it was a bit of a mare, but Yeah.
Was it you? Was it you that swapped out doing toe-ins and went through the kicker ramp as well, or was that Dodsy?
That was Doddsy. Yeah.
Oh,
That was
I remember
after,
that yarn.
that was after that. Yeah. So that's a whole other yarn.
That was a whole other story. That's probably no, that was Team Stealth. That was pre-Kiwi.
He was on a Kiwi. No, that was Kiwi actually. I was on
it?
a Kiwi then too. So that was when X-Air was in Hamilton. We were kind of
X-Air, I forgot about that.
And we'd organised with them to do some tow-ins into the FMX setup, and we built our own ramp, and we were practicing on this like construction area where they pushed a whole bunch of dirt into like this massive pile. So we spent ages digging it and like forming it into a landing, and then one Saturday we took our ramp out there and we were towing in behind Dodsy's Commodore. And I would just like tow in and let go and just drift over. It wasn't particularly exciting, but it was like 50 odd feet of pretty big air. And then you're hitting it. I don't know how fast we're hitting it, but fast enough you needed a car to get to that speed. Anyway, Dodsy would do like 2 quick pedals before he hit the ramp, just as like a speed check kind of thing. And one time he slipped his pedal and then went over the bars into the ramp and like smashed through it. Fortunately, it was made of old wood, but smashed through the 4x2 and everything with his shoulder.
Holy shit.
And I remember he like rolled. We were just like, oh my God, he's dead, you know. And he rolls off the ramp, and this was like late evening as well, because I'm pretty sure it was getting dark. And he like rolls off, and he's just on all fours, just sounded like a dying goat, just so unbelievably winded. And me and I don't know if you guys remember Snappy, who was I was playing with at the time. Snappy was driving the car. We had video footage of it all too somewhere, but it's kind of all got lost somewhere in the years. But yeah, that was another crazy thing that we got up to. And then from that, like that was all in prep for X-Air. So we end up at X-Air, and JK came out as well actually to do some tow-ins with us. I think was that year? Yeah, it must have been. And we couldn't get enough. We had the X-Air guys gave us a quad bike to tow into the ramp, but we couldn't get enough speed with it. We didn't have a long enough run up, so we had to cut part of their like security fencing at the end, and we were starting in the like property next door, going through this like fence that we'd ripped open. Of course, that didn't go down too well with any of the organisers or the security guys. So we really only had one session until they realised that we were starting 50 metres outside of where we should have been. But yeah, that was pretty cool, but real weird to hit a jump that fast. And I couldn't do anything bar straight airs pretty much over that thing.
Yeah,
and Wally was trying to get a whip. When you're at that speed, it's real hard. Yeah.
Last question I've got here, Red Dog. A Rupert Chapman would like to get a play-by-play breakdown of what went wrong for Trent on the Graveyard Gap. Really keen to hear an expert opinion. This is obviously quite a niche reference as well.
It's a real niche reference.
Was a jumping palmy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a jumping palmy. It's no longer there because they logged it. It was massive, and it was made out of like a few pallets. The takeoff was made out of a few pallets that were like propped up on an angle with dirt on them, but like there was nothing else underneath it, so it was kind of like a big magic carpet hanging out in the and old Trent came along. It was a video on Vorb, RIP, although it came back from the dead, and I don't know, it's just this guy on this like Avanti hot dog, and he looked like he had next to no jumping skill, and he kind of just came because you could come in and get the speed, it was no worries. It was just quite big, and he just cased the back of the landing, which was basically logs, and got quite peeled out. And I remember going back to it after he'd done it, and like some of the logs on the back were just snapped in half, so he'd hit it pretty hard.
Poor Trent. Did he go on to be Trent from Punch Bowl?
It was probably similar.
Trent from Punchy?
Yeah, similar ilk, you'd probably say. Actually, I don't know why this is tricking my brain, but I've got one last Leogang. I got a Leogang story from when I was there in 2010. Just to wrap up the Leogang pre-show.
So I was there with podcast with us.
I was there with Dan Sims and friend of the show Sam Baker, and Sam was just a young fella, and we're staying at this condo, and I think Sam, one of us went and got some cheese from the Euro supermarket, and just cheese to have with lunch or whatever. And Europe being Europe, the cheese turned out to be real smelly, like horrifically smelly. And so Sam thought it would be funny to put it in Dan's helmet bag because Dan claims to have a super sensitive nose. And so he put it in there, and Dan found it, and like it was like, aha, like I'm gonna get you back, sort of thing. And then so Dan like hid it everywhere and all through Sam's kit, and he like cut a hole in his pillow and like stuffed it inside the liner and stuff. And he also I think he made a little slit in Sam's helmet, like in the pads and stuff, and he stuffed it inside there so Sam could never find it. And it was all throughout his helmet, and I think his kit as well. And then so Sam,
That's
just
so
this young fellow, he gets on we're at the World Cup, and he gets on the lift and like on the gondola, and in comes Chris Kavarik, who was like a hero of his, and he'd never met him before. And he gets in the gondola, and they're kind of like halfway up, and Chris is looking like quite agitated, and Chris just turns around, rips the window of the gondola down, and he's just like, "What the hell stinks in here?" And it was Sam, and he was really gutted.
So good.
Incredible. What a way to wrap it up. That's a great leg gig story to finish the show. Oh, poor Sam Baker. If you
feel free to send in a response there, Sam.
Also, just a last minute reminder for you, Red Dog, and for everyone else. Don't forget you do have fantasy teams, and I mean, if you want to win a non-existent prize in our league, make sure you update your fantasy teams. Maybe make some wholesale changes. Reminds me, better take Jess Blewett off my team. She won't be there.
Yeah, will she not? Nah.
What did she break? Collarbone or something? Eh?
Collarbone.
Yeah.
Yeah, man,
it's only been 2. It's only been 2 weeks. I can't imagine she's back.
Should GT put horse on the bike? Like not in the women's category, but when I was there in 2010,
I thought you were going to just like a fill-in, like he went into the women's category. But
let's not start down that track. That's like 4 podcasts worth of.
Well, he's just got a good track record there. I don't see why they couldn't put him on the bike.
The controversial topic.
Think, like, what do you think it would take for him to get back on and be? I reckon he, horse is always fast. He's always fit to some degree, although he's been partaking in probably a few too many Duvals by the sound of it.
Yeah, and a bit much.
Getting into like team manager life too much.
Yeah, he needs to take it easy on the gluten, but he would.
Gluten would be smashing him.
Yeah. Imagine how rank his fucking room is. I reckon if he wanted to and focused on it, he could get back, like to being a qualifying guy for sure. I don't know how far up the field he'd go now, but like I'm sure he'd be up, kind of. I mean, I think he could pull with training and everything. He'd be just as competitive as anyone else on that team.
I reckon so.
Yeah.
I reckon so.
Don't see why not.
Yeah. I agree.
We'll see.
There you go, Cam. There's a challenge for you. One World Cup, maybe not this year, but maybe next year. Make it a goal horse. Get in there.
Oh, that'd be good. That would be good to see him back.
Oh, I only have 1 day to set my fantasy team. We better do this soon.
Yeah, I'm just trying to log in. I don't know what my password is, though.
Every time I go to have a fantasy team, nothing works for me, so I just give up.
Nah,
I'll never win.
It's a terrible game.
Agree.
Well, before I just totally blank out and just go and try and log into my Pink Bike account so I can change my fantasy team, we probably should wrap up the podcast. Thanks for joining us on, a pretty 11th hour call up, Lester. We were actually very nearly had Ed Masters on, but then we realised Track Walk was on at about the same time as we were going to do this. So,
you got the second best bald guy on board. So,
yeah, I mean, we kind of went for as similar as we could, and that was the trait. We like to have, we usually have Horse on here quite often, so we like to have our bald co-hosts.
Yeah.
I'm getting there, bro. We won't need these guys soon.
Nah,
You look like you're still doing all right, Red Dog.
It's slowly coming off.
It's hard to say because you look like you're being shot through a potato by the look of how grainy your screen is.
He's on a Nokia 3310.
Retrofitted.
That I am.
Yeah. Right.
Nice, boys. All right. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening if you made it this far, and we'll see you next week for a review.
What was that? I can't hear you. I let it be like John Lennon, the anti-serum that you don't get for poisonous venom. Read the label carefully, I'm only here for the show. I love hip-hop too much to let you feed my ego. In the key of F-U-C-K, Y-O-U. I mean, why do I owe you if you're not helping me through? I mean, why do I owe you if you're obstructing my view? Success is not my castle, just a house that's brand new. You see, I irrigate the culture, give it shape like a sculpture. Still complicated, rock like I'm supposed to be. L-I-T-Z like my DJ. Rock to the rhythm like you rock to what he plays.